There are stories they tell in history books. And then, there are stories they never wanted you to hear. In the shadows of war, under the banners of governments, and behind the smiles of trusted institutions, unspeakable horrors unfolded. These are not myths. Not legends. But cold, brutal truths. Buried in files, whispered in fear, and forgotten by time. Today, we dig them up. 3 true stories. 3 hidden atrocities. And one haunting question: how far will humans go when no one's watching? This is history they tried to erase.
1. Unit 731, Japan's Forgotten House of Horrors. Hidden deep in Manchuria, northern China, there once stood a place that didn't exist on any map. Locals had a chilling name for it: the Death Camp. Its real name? Unit 731, a top-secret division of the Imperial Japanese Army during World War II. From the outside, it looked like a normal military facility. But behind its cold steel walls, a nightmare beyond imagination was unfolding. Thousands of prisoners, Chinese, Korean, Russian, even pregnant women and children, were brought in. Not to be jailed, but to become test subjects in some of the most horrific human experiments in history. People were strapped to operating tables. No anesthesia. No painkillers. Doctors would cut open living bodies, removing livers, kidneys, uteruses, just to observe how they reacted while still alive. Others were forced to stand in -20 degrees Celsius cold, then had boiling water poured on their limbs, to study how frostbite decayed human tissue. Some were injected with bubonic plague and locked away, waiting to rot. Some were forced to have sex in sealed rooms, just to track how syphilis, gonorrhea, and HIV spread. Everything was recorded: body temperature at death, reactions to pain, time of last breath. To the Japanese soldiers, these victims had no names. They were simply called maruta, logs. When the war ended, you'd think the people behind this horror would be tried for crimes against humanity. But instead, the US government cut a deal. In exchange for all Unit 731's medical data, the scientists were granted immunity. None of them were punished. And so, one of humanity's darkest atrocities, where thousands were dissected alive in the name of science, was buried. Not taught in schools. Not spoken in public. Because some secrets aren't written in ink. They're written in blood. And buried in silence. 2. Tuskegee, when the US government turned its own people into lab rats. In 1932, in Tuskegee, Alabama, a medical study quietly began. Its name sounded innocent enough: the Tuskegee Study of untreated syphilis in the Negro male. 600 poor black men, mostly farmers, were invited to participate. They were promised free treatment, transportation, and even free funerals if they died. It sounded generous. But it was all a lie. Of the 600, 399 actually had syphilis. But none of them were ever treated, even though penicillin had become widely available by the 1940s. The real goal? To observe how syphilis destroys the human body. Without any treatment. The men were monitored as they slowly went blind, insane, paralyzed, or died. Their wives caught the disease. Their children were born deformed or dead. All the while, they had no idea. They were being studied like lab animals. And worse, the entire study was run by the US government. Only in 1972 did a whistleblower finally expose the truth. The nation was outraged. Congress held hearings. Decades later, President Bill Clinton issued a formal apology. But for hundreds of families, no apology could bring back what was lost. Some wounds never heal. Especially when they're inflicted by the ones we trust most. 3. Holodomor, the genocide carried out by policy. In 1932, Ukraine's farmlands were rich and full. Golden wheat, healthy livestock, a land that could feed millions. Yet that same year, millions began to die of hunger. Not because crops failed. Not because of natural disaster. But because Stalin ordered it. Under the Soviet collectivization plan, all food was to be handed over to the state. Soldiers went door to door, seizing every grain, every potato, even seeds for next year's planting. If someone hid food, they were shot on the spot. Villagers, including children, the elderly, pregnant women, were left with nothing. No bread. No soup. No way to escape. Because every village was locked down by troops. People collapsed in the streets. Families died inside their homes. Corpses lay unburied, no one had the strength to dig graves. There were even reports of parents cooking their own children to feed the others. In just 2 years, between 3 to 7 million people perished. Stalin stayed silent. Western reporters looked the other way. The world didn't know. Or didn't want to. It took decades, until the fall of the Soviet Union, for the truth to come out. The Holodomor, meaning death by hunger, is now recognized as a man-made genocide. Sometimes, the deadliest weapon isn't a gun. It's policy. And silence. These stories aren't just tragedies from the past. They are warnings. Warnings of what happens when power goes unchecked. When science loses its soul. When people are seen as tools, not humans. The victims of Unit 731, Tuskegee, and Holodomor may be gone, but their silence speaks volumes. And now, we've heard them. Thank you for watching. If this moved you, share it. Because remembering is the first step to making sure this never happens again. Don't forget to subscribe for more truths the world tried to bury.